So, Packwood House. Is its interior a disjointed Tudor ruination or an architectural salvage masterpiece? Well, before we look and decide, let's look backward at Packwood. In 1556, it was a timber-framed two-storey farmhouse. By 1600, the Featherstone family had transformed it to a three-storey Tudor mansion house. But by the 1920s, the house had lost most of its Tudor features and had been extensively expanded. And this is where Graham Baron Ashe came in and set about putting the Tudor heart back into Packwood. Now, this is where controversy arises, but it was a welcoming environment for Oliver Cromwell's general and indeed for a British Queen to visit. Let's go in through this side of the house and see the changes for ourselves. We're starting in the remodelled Tudor entrance hall.
Where the corridor is now. The staircase up to the bedrooms.
Along with 26 tapestries, Graham Baron Ashe purchased various architectural salvage from failing properties to restore Packwood to what he perceived to be its Tudor glory. But was that his sole motive? The Jacobean gallery and exposed wood ceiling were installed to replace its Edwardian predecessor. So he kind of reversed the eras. At this point, I'm just going to show you a plan of the house, though this excludes the third entrance. The first arrow shows where we entered the entrance hall, and the second arrow where we are now entering the long gallery. We'll take a look upstairs and at the minstrel gallery shortly. The long gallery was built in the early 1930s, but in Tudor style, to link the old part of the house with the newly refurbished outbuildings, which became the Great Hall. And of course, this is the perfect backdrop for Baron Ashe's 16th and 17th century furnishings and tapestries. Refurbishing Packwood was said to be a labour of love for Baron Ashe, a focus for his enthusiasm for restoration and collecting. We're heading now into the Great Hall. Now this he created in 1931 as an entertainment space. It even has a sprung floor for dancing. And on the 23rd of August 1927, Baron Ashe was thrilled to receive Queen Mary here for afternoon tea. But it wouldn't have been on this table because this wasn't purchased until 1932. It's over 6 metres long and was purchased along with tapestries and various other items from nearby Baddesley Clinton. I could not pass through without mentioning this gorgeous full-height oriel window with its heraldic panels which play with the light, and its beautifully restored window seat created from a design in one of the tapestries and to match 2 chairs they restored in the long gallery. The lovely stone fireplace to the left with its plaster over mantel was salvaged from 35 High Street, Stratford-upon-Avon, a vintner's, and the vintner's initials of J for John and his wife Margaret and son Ralph remain there for posterity. Sadly, the vintners, along with a couple of other buildings, were damaged beyond repair in a fire, and you can still see some evidence of this on the fireplace today. The minstrel gallery we see here was created from hay racks because, of course, this area was originally stables, a barn and a cowshed. Until that time, the roof was supported with cross members, and these were removed, or rather they were sawn off, and rather than have a rough beam end, Baron Ashe decided to have carved corbels. This was an ornate style he'd seen in France, and he decided this would enhance his opulent Tudor style perfectly. Just have a quick glimpse into the parlour before we head upstairs. Here's a little bit of the history of Baron Ashe, who he was, what he did. We're heading upstairs because There are 3 special bedrooms I want to show you and the gallery. It's a little bit dark in the bedrooms, but bear with me. Before we go into the rooms, I want to show you this unusual painting of King Charles II. It is oil on plaster, painted in 1678 by Antonio Verrio, and it was originally part of the painted ceiling in the King's withdrawing room in Windsor Castle. But it was removed in 1824 by George IV and sold. Now this first room is very dark, but I'm giving a glimpse of it because this is where Oliver Cromwell's son-in-law and General Henry Ireton stayed the night in 1642, shortly before the Battle of Edge Hill during the English Civil War. And it even has an ensuite bathroom, though it would look very different in 1642. This has modern 1930s style plumbing and lavish blue delft tiles.
That's another room, isn't there?
Don't walk into it. Right, we're going to go and listen to the guide tell us a little bit about the Queen Margaret bedroom. This was Margaret of Anjou, wife of King Henry VI. Now, although she never stayed at Packwood, this was thought to be the bed she slept in before the Battle of Tewkesbury in 1471.
Came back to England because she fled when they put Henry in the Tower. She came back with the child a little bit older with the aim to put him on the English throne, as was his right. And so she raised an army, and that was where she was in Alphen Manor the night before the battle, we're told. The next day there was the battle, and the child was stabbed to death in the battle, so he never did become king, of course. So he bought the bed with that provenance. Did have these hangings on the top, and the back piece, and 2 of the curtains, but it was terribly neglected. And so he bought it and had it brought here and conserved. So he was able to put it in this room with that label. Now it's Queen Margaret's room. But we think he bought the wall hangings as well. The wall hangings, most people think, especially in this light, are tapestry, but they're not. If you look at them, they're painted on canvas.
Oh, okay.
It's just painted. The whole room is covered with them. They would have been beautifully brightly coloured when they were new. It would have been like sleeping in a forest. Yeah. But they were called poor man's tapestries because if you couldn't afford tapestries, which were incredibly expensive, if you were merchant class or middle class, then you could afford to pretend and have these because they were much cheaper to produce. And you could match them, you could cut them.
Now, this room is known as Queen Mary's bedroom. She never stayed the night here, but she did use this room to rest when she came for afternoon tea. Goodness knows what he put in the tea if she needed to sleep. Right, we'll just have a little glimpse of the balcony now and get a different perspective of the entrance hall below, which formed part of the original house, but it was reproportioned. Right, let's head downstairs and have a look at some more of the original part of the house. It's identified on the map by the green parameter. This area is known as the inner hall, but actually it's part of a much bigger room which was subdivided. And there is at least one clue that these rooms were not subdivided in this way originally. But we'll see that shortly in the drawing room. There are 2 original entrances and a 3rd entrance to this house. The one here on our right is an original entrance. We'll see that from the outside shortly. Okay, next we have a glimpse of the study. As far as I can tell, the fireplace in its original position into the chimney breast that runs up through the house, and it's central to the room. So this room may be original. However, the 16th and 17th century wood panelling isn't all original. To the right of the fireplace, you'll see it's much darker, perhaps a mahogany tone, and the rest of it appears to be a light oak. I'm unsure which type is the original, but both are beautiful. Okay. Okay, on to the drawing room, and this is where we'll find out evidence that this room is now smaller than it was originally. But I want to draw your attention to a few treasured items here grouped together. We've got the chair that Queen Mary sat in when she visited in August 1927. I suspect the beautiful embroidered quote on the cushion is completed by the Cell Network enterprise. And then we've got the cup and saucer and the pen that she used. Remember, that cup was never used after. But then this triangular piece of furniture is actually a 17th century spinet, a musical instrument. It's special not only because it was played for Queen Mary, but because in 1931, Russian concert pianist Prince George Chavchavadze actually held a recital here at Packwood and brought a lot of interest to Packwood. He even autographed inside the lid of the spinet. Okay, so where is the hint that this room should be bigger? Well, you wouldn't normally have the fireplace in the corner, and it's been established that this panelled wall to the left was added at the later date. If you look at the map there, you can get the idea of how it looks without that partition wall. Additionally, with the entrance hall, that fireplace would then be central too, without the other partition wall. Finally, we're just going to have a quick glimpse at the dining room. In this room is a special chest of drawers which Baron Ash bought in 1930. It was made around 1670 in oak, cherry, snakewood, emmonized wood, and it's inlaid with bone and mother of pearl. And it was purchased for a large sum of money from Baddesley Clinton to furnish Packwood, but also to help the Baddesley Clinton family at that time. This room also has Charles II chairs and 17th century Cromwellian refectory table. Right, I'm just giving you a quick glimpse back at the entrance hall there so you can get your bearings as to where we are. We're heading back out the door now, because I wanted to bring you round to the side aspect of the building so I could show you that wider door that we saw inside, because that is part of the original two-storey building, or at least what it was in 1600. But this double-storey porch was added later. Then just around the corner we've got the more prestigious three-storey aspect that we saw at the start. So let's take a look at that now from this standpoint. These steps lead to a 17th century yew garden. It's not open today, but from here we can get a good view of the house and reflect. Well, what do you think? Is Packwood an over-dramatised, theatrical, personal expression, or is it a masterpiece of early architectural salvage? Well, for me, as someone with a passion for preservation and restyling, this single quote from Baron Ash gives complete clarity. It's a historical home makeover from a man who used his wealth to orchestrate the preservation of artefacts. It is an architectural masterpiece. So I have run back inside and I'm refusing to leave. I'm hoping that if I hide somewhere, no one will notice. But if they do, be assured I shall embrace my inspiration for more visits and restyles. So if you want to see more, like and subscribe, and I'll see you very soon.